ever see a trail so wrong, it feels like the woods are trying to swallow you whole? You're listening to ASM or 404Found. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I was born in Oregon, way out near the foggy coast, but I was raised down in Texas, under the dry heat and wide skies. And when I made my way back up to the Pacific Northwest, I figured I'd spend the whole fall backpacking, just me, my pack, the dirt underfoot, and the wind in the trees, before the rain rolled in and ruined the backcountry like it always does up here. I had a solid list of trails to hit, mostly stuff from forums, some ranger wrecks, a couple passed down from my buddy back in Bend. I was checking him off real quick, knocking out miles, sleeping under the stars, just doing my thing. But this one trail, this one right here, I didn't plan for it. Not even a little light. Wasn't on all trails. Wasn't in any Facebook group I'm in. Didn't pop up in the ranger station maps either. Not even in the handwritten notes pinned to the old corkboard near the bathroom. He only heard about it because of this old guy I met at a bar in Leavenworth. He was sitting 2 stools down, drinking something dark out of a chipped glass, smelled like pine tar and cigarettes. Looked like he hadn't blinked since the Clinton era. He leaned in when he heard me talking trails to. The bartender told me, real quiet like, that I ought to steer clear of one place in particular, Splitjaw Ridge. He said, don't go near it, don't hike it. Don't even speak its name out loud after dark unless you want to end up part of the ridge yourself. No, I should have known better. I mean, come on. Anytime a local starts talking about cursed woods or places that scream at night, you'd think that it'd be enough to keep your boots pointed somewhere else. But I was 3 beers in, feeling brave, and my curiosity's the kind that never did learn to quit. So I smiled at him, nodded polite, tipped him $5 for the warning, and said, well, sir, I appreciate the heads up. Then I went and found that trailhead the very next morning. The road up was rough, full of potholes, ruts, and tight turns where the branches clawed at my windows like they were trying to stop me from going any further. Fog was real low, clinging to the hood of my truck like smoke that didn't know where to drift. He didn't see any real signs, nothing visual except this one rusted slab of metal nailed crooked to a Douglas fir. There was what looked like a skull scratched into it, deep lines, like someone did it with a hunting knife. In a real bad mood underneath, someone had scrawled Splitjaw in black marker, all caps, messy, like they were in a hurry or shaking while they rode. Edie parked anyways, holstered my pack, tightened the straps, and headed in. The trail didn't look right, not like a proper forest path, or like a game trail, the kind deer or coyotes would use. Narrow, winding, and overgrown just enough to feel off. First few miles were thick with fir trees and old stumps blanketed in moss. Kind of forest that feels darker than it should even in the middle of the day. There weren't any birds chirping, no squirrels running around, just the sound of my boots sinking into wet earth, and the occasional creak of something heavy swaying above meth. The whole place smelled like wet stone, rotting pine needles, and I'll be honest with you, something about the silence made my back itch. About 2 miles and I came across an old fire ring. It looked ancient, half buried in the dirt. The stones black with soot and sunken in like the forest was slowly trying to eat it around. The edges were bones, little ones made raccoons, maybe rabbits, but there were too many for one animal, and they were laid out way too neat, not scattered like something died there, or like someone placed them, lined them up with gray, took a photo. Figured I'd post it later with some spooky caption, but deep down, I felt that little flicker of warning in my gut, and I ignored it like a fool. The trail started to climb, but that switchback's real narrow, curling up the ridge like a spinny end. That's when the wind changed. It came through the trees like a whisper, not loud, not fast, but sharp. Real sharp, like it wasn't passing over my ears, but sliding into the man that I heard it. Something say my name, and not out loud, not with a voice. I could point to it inside my head, soft and broken and full of gravel. Like it had been chewed on before being spoken. He spun around quick half, expecting to see another hiker, some idiot trying to mess with maybe the trail was empty, just trees. Moss, Shadowsy was alone, or at least I was supposed to debut. I didn't feel alone, not anymore. I found a flat patch near the ridge edge. Set up camp with a view of the valley below, sun turning orange and purple behind the trees. Real postcard stuff showed been peaceful, showed made me feel lucky, but it did not even a little. I kept catching flashes of movement just beyond my sight, something big, something slow, something quiet, and every time I tried to get a good look, it vanished behind the trunks like it was made of smoke. I built a fire. Even though I usually don't want to unsolace something about the cold up, there didn't feel like weather. It felt like it was coming up from inside the ridge itself, like the mountain was breathing frost from its lungs. Deeper the night got, the louder the forest seemed to breath. Still no animals, no owls, no coyotes, nothing, just a long, slow moaning sound that seemed to rise from the dirt like steam, like the ground itself had lungs, and they were filling with something thick and wrong. Then, around midnight, I heard the first scream. It wasn't human, not real livid. It sure as hell wasn't animal. I there it sounded like someone falling forever, never hitting bottom. Just screaming the whole way down. Sound stretched too far, like a mouth open too wide to belong to a person, and something inside it just let loose. I stood up fast, flashlight in one hand, life in the other, heart beating so loud it felt like a drum in my earth. Scream rolled up through the trees, bouncing off the rocks, curling around my legs like smoke, and then it just stopped. It just like that. No Fodeno echo, just gone. But the silence that followed was worse. The graphically the scream had pulled all the air out of the woods. With Edie didn't sleep that night, cowled in free time. I shut my eyes. I saw a face I didn't recognize, long and pallid, grinning to wide, hanging upside down from the trees. Like a possum swing gently back and forth, eyes open, watching me, always watching be morning. I'd made up my mind to leave. I packed fast, tore down camp, laced up my boots tight, but when I looked for the trail I'd come and own, it wasn't there. Running hid not over ground, just going like it had never existed. He started walking in circles. I shook my compass, my map, my phone, even though I knew I had no signal out here. Nothing made sense. The forest looked the same in every direction, like it had shifted in the night, like it had grown teeth. Then I found the second fire ring still. Warm logs blackened and crackling like something just left, but there was no gear, No tent, nothing, just ash and something underneath. Edie reached in, pulled out what looked like an old hiking boot, melted, twisted, the sole all peeled back like it had been chewed on by something with real big teeth. Hand inside that boot was a foot still, laced tight still, fresh. Dropped it so fast my stomach turned. He stumbled back, eyes wide. Chest tight. That's when I heard my name again, this time louder, this time deeper, like it was coming through a tunnel filled with blood, and I realized it wasn't calling me from behind or beside. Might was calling from underneath, from inside the ridge, from somewhere deep in the dirt, from Splitjaw. I didn't move for a while, not because I didn't want to, but because something deep inside me, like real deep somewhere under the guts and bones, told me if I moved, whatever was underneath me would move too. So I just stood there in the trees, next to that half-melted boot with that damn foot still inside it, like I was waiting for the earth to swallow me whole. And know I've hiked all kinds of trails. I've been out in Texas, Hill Country, the Colorado backcountry, even some gnarly backwoods in West Virginia. And yeah, I've been spooked before. It comes with the territory. You hear things, you feel things, but this wasn't that. This was something else. This was like the woods had teeth, and I'd already stepped inside its mouth. So I did what any dumb stubborn fool would do. I told myself it wasn't real. Told myself just tired, just dehydrated, too much coffee, not enough breakfast, that kind of nonsense. I turned away from the boot, shouldered my pack, and I picked a direction. Any direction didn't matter anymore. The forest didn't match what I came in through. It wasn't just that the trail vanished, it's that everything felt tilted, like the trees leaned in, like gravity pulled sideways, and every few yards I'd pass a stump or a boulder or a log that looked almost familiar, almost like I'd passed it already. Only a little different, like it had changed. While I blinked, he checked my compass. The damn needle spun like a drunk. I pulled out my phone. No signal, no GPS, just a black screen reflecting the sweat running down my face. I kept walking left, then right, then uphill again. Every step felt heavier, like my boots were sinking into something thicker than muted. Some point I stopped noticing the sky, because the trees had closed in so tight overhead it was all shadow, even at what should have been noon. Everything smelled wet and sour, like mildew, and copper, like wet pennies, like a busted nose left to rot. Then I saw it, another camp, this one way. Older faded canvas flap, half torn off a frame, rust-eaten lantern hung from a crooked branch. In the middle, a logbook sitting on a stump, like it had been waiting. No, I know better, God knows. I should have kept walking, but I'm wired a certain way. Always been too curious, too much damn Texas in my blood, so I picked it up. I flipped through the page. Most of it was smeared, water, damaged, torn edges. But a few entries were still legible, names I didn't recognize, dates going back decades. And all of them, every single one, talked about the ridge. They called it Splitjaw, called it cursed, called it alive. Some talked about voices, others about things in the trees. One page just had 3 words written over and over again: digging wakes. It digging wakes, it digging wakes. Edie shut the book, dropped it on the stump, and took off faster than I should have. My boot caught a root, and I went face first into the dirt. I spat out mud, shoved myself up, and froze it, because right in front of me, not 10 feet away, was a hole. Not just some random pit, it was dug, deliberate, square edges, like someone had taken a spade to it and deep to deep the bottom swallowed all light, and the air that came out of it was warm and wet and breath-engy-backed. Slow, one foot behind the other, kept my eyes on that hole like it was a snake. I swear as I stepped back I heard something down there. Not a voice, not exactly, more like breathing, but shaped into syllables like something trying to remember how to speak using my own breath to do it. Then came the sound low deep, like a throat clearing beneath 1,000 pounds of dirt, and all around me trees grown real long, real slow, like something underneath them was shifting. She turned and ran. Didn't even try to pick a direction this time, just sprinted through the brush branches, tearing at my sleeves, roots trying to trip me in that heat, that terrible heat, rising up from the ground like steam, chasing me like a shadow. Eventually I hit a clearing wide, flat, full of rocks. Only these rocks. They weren't rocks, they were face-stone faces, hundreds of them, all cracked, all twisted, all staring up at the canopy, mouths open like they were screaming. When they froze, they couldn't breathe. Just stood there, heart pounding, staring at this field of frozen agony. And at the far end, there was one face that wasn't stone. I was flesh in it, blanketed. Was it for me? I turned again. Didn't care about direction, didn't care if I ever saw a trail again. I just wanted out so bad my lungs started to burn. And even then, I could still feel it, that pull, that damn pull, like something below was tugging at my heels. See, don't know how long I ran, time didn't work right anymore. It could have been minutes, could have been hours, but eventually I stumbled back onto what looked like a trailnet, the one I started on, but closing now and ahead of me. Maybe 100 yards, I saw a shape, another hiker, screamed, waved, my arms ran toward him like a lunatic, and he just stood there waiting. She got within 30 feet before I realized he wasn't wearing shoes, wasn't breathing, and his eyes were open but dead like wide glass marbles, clouded and cold like they'd been staring too long. Then he opened his mouth, and what came out wasn't a sound, it was dirt, just dirt, pouring out of his mouth like his lungs were full of the ridge itself. He fell backward, scrambled into the brush, and when I looked up again he was gone. And no footprints, no movement, just that smell again, that coppery rot, the one that said you're not going anywhere. I kept moving, didn't stop, didn't sleep, didn't think, only walk or down. No, the trees thinned. I saw pavement trail, pavimenty, damn near creed-me truck, but still they're covered in sap and leaves. But they ate through my gear in the bed, slammed the door. I drove, didn't look back once, not once, but I never deleted the photo, the one of the fire ring with the bones, because every now and then when I can't sleep, when the dirt under my nails starts to smell too sweet, I look at it and there's something new in the background. Every time a shape, a face, something halfway out of the ground looking at me, waiting because I didn't walk away from. Split-jawed, really, you never do. I took off running like something had lit fire to my boots, heart slamming in my chest like a jackhammer on concrete, every step slipping on wet moss and old pine needles. The world tilting sideways like I was inside some kind of funhouse. Trail turned to jagged rock and drop-offs on both sides. Trees leaned in real close, like they were trying to grab me, like they wanted to wrap me up and bark and never let go. Didn't know where I was going, not really, I just knew I had to go down, get lower, get away from that voice that echoed in my bones Like a church bell made of teeth, me legs were moving on their own. Like autopilot kicked in, my breath came ragged like I'd swallowed ice water. Like it was freezing me from the inside out. When I finally stopped, it wasn't 'cause I found safety, it was 'cause I saw the cabin. Oh look, I've hiked all over this country. I've seen old ranger stations, abandoned mining shacks, even shelters built from stacked logs and tarps, but this wasn't that. This was to clean, to square, like someone had rebuilt it piece by piece. Like they found parts buried in the dirt and just started stacking. Every plank was gray like bone, and the windows weren't glass, just holes covered in stretched canvas. Some of it looked like skin dried tight across wooden frames. And something was burning inside 'cause I could smell it, that sweet acrid stench, the smell of hair and fat and sorrow all mixed up together. Me dumb brain said maybe there's someone in there, maybe there's a radio or a map or just a fire. And a voice that ain't mine telling me things are gonna be okay. So I crept up real slow, boots crunching the gravel, only it wasn't gravel, not really. It was teeth, thousands of teeth covering the ground like hail. And when I put my hand on the door, I felt it twitch like something on the other side had been waiting just for that touch. When it opened, I didn't see anything, just darkness, the kind that swallows up your flashlight, makes your eyes feel useless. Then I heard breath, and not mine, not human either. It was wet real close like syrup in lungs. And then a shape moved out from the dark, you swear to everything. It was me, not someone who looked like me, not kinda similar. It was me, same shirt, same boots, same scruffy beard, same scared look in the eyes. It smiled, but crooked like it didn't know how, and it said, "You made it back. That's good, now lay down, we've been waiting." He slammed that door hard enough to crack the wood, and I ran again. I didn't care if I busted my ankle, didn't care if I flew off a cliff. I just needed to get away from that thing. 'Cause whatever it was wearing my skin like a Halloween costume, and it wanted me to wear something else, something not human. Ran till I found water, a creek I didn't recognize, cut through the rock like a wound. I dropped to my knees, drank like a dog, too thirsty to care, but the water, it was thick like blood, tasted like pennies and raw meat. And when I looked down, my reflection wasn't mine, not anymore. It was that thing from the cabin, grinning up at me with eyes that blinked sideways and teeth too sharp to ever belong in my mouth. He screamed, threw up every drop I just swallowed. And that's when the ground gave out, no warning, no shake, just cracked under me like a rotted floorboard, and I fell. I don't know how far, 20 feet, maybe 200. I landed in something soft, warm, moving like a pile of worm sand. When I sat up, I realized it wasn't dirt, it was people, bodies stacked up, pale red and moaning, some with no mouths, some with too many. They reached for me, arms bending, wrong fingers like knives. I scrambled back, hit a wall of bone slick with blood covered in handprints. Words carved deep like scripture, over and over, same words: feed the rich, feed the rich, feed the rich, till it filled my whole mind. Like static buzzing from an old TV, I climbed the wall, bare hands, slipping on gore, on muscle, on teeth. And when I pulled myself out, I wasn't in the woods anymore. Was under Emmy, was inside. The rigid tunnels went every which way, too smooth to be natural, round, perfect walls with veins pulsing like the whole mountain had a heartbeat every few feet. Something nailed to the stone. Hikers, campers, folks like me Splitjaw's chest still moving just a little, just enough to say. They were still in there screaming without sound. He wondered, felt like days, no food. No water, no sleep, just a rich humming in my skull like 1,000 bees, air too thick to breathe. But still crawling down my throat, then I saw the heart of Splitjaw. It wasn't a monster. Not like you'd imagine. It was a space and emptiness, a mouth, the size of a house lined with ribs like church arches. At the center, something growing from the stone. Not plant, not flesh, something in between, pulsing, glowing, whispering in a voice that sounded like every dead loved one I ever lost telling me come. Oh man, I almost did. He almost walked right into it just to stop the cold in my bones. Just to shut up the thoughts crawling under my scalp, but something stopped me. Maybe the knife on my belt, maybe the part of me still remembering who I was, or maybe it was the sound of boots behind me turn, and there he was, that old man. From the bar standing in the tunnel, torch in one hand, shotgun in the other, eyes like stone. He said, told you not to come here, kid, now we gotta burn this place shut before it takes another generation to pull me out. I don't know how, maybe I walked. He dragged me, all I know I woke up at my car engine running, headlights on a map. Pinned to my chest with a nail, not rusty but still dripping, blood trail gone. Erased from the paper, just trees now, just rocks like it never existed. He left Oregon the next day. Haven't stepped foot in a forest since, not once, not after Splitjaw. After what followed me home, cow, some nights when the wind blows just right. I hear my name whispering, coming up from the dirt under my apartment, soft, slow, like it's smelling in. I know one day soon it's gonna come up through the floor and take me back, and this time I might not fight it, 'cause part of me never left that rich part. But me still buried in the heart of the mountain, and that part still hungry. I wasn't looking for trouble when I took that turn off Highway 93. I'd been on the road for a good 6 hours by then, windows down, coffee gone cold, playlist. Worn out, my boots itching to hit dirt again, so when I saw that crooked little forest, service sign half swallowed by weeds pointing up a gravel path that just said Deadwater Ridge Trailhead, I figured, what the hell, one more detour before sundown. Ain't no trail apps mentioned, it ain't on the official map, neither I checked nothing. But blank green forest where the ridge should have been, but the place called to me, like it knew I'd be passing by, like it had been waiting. Gravel road was so narrow, I thought my tires might kiss the edge and just slide off on one side. You had dense lodge poles packed so tight, they looked like prison bars on the other straight drop into God knows what. All I could hear was the hum of my tires and the wind whispering through pine. Words, no bugs, just trees that leaned in a little too close. When I pulled up to the trailhead, I noticed right off that the wood sign was damn near rotted through, letters barely hanging on, but it was there clear as anything burned into the grain by hand. Deadwater Ridge Trailhead, Bitterroot Mountains, Montana. Use it. There was a ranger's notice nailed right under it, faded so dead, just curled up like old skin. I leaned in real close and traced the letters with my finger. It said temporarily closed, water contamination under investigation. Entry strongly discouraged. That last part, entry strongly discouraged, felt less like a warning, more like a dare. I should have turned around, I know that now. But when the woods call your name real soft like they're humming just for you, you tend to forget what comes I slung on my pack, tightened my boots, and stepped past the sick, and it was quiet to quiet every step. I took on that pine needle trail, sounded like it echoed for miles. My breath felt loud, my heart beat louder. The trees stood too still, like they were holding their breath with me. After a mile or so, I came to a clearing where the air changed. It got damn sticky, like the kind of humidity you only feel near swamps or after a fresh grave gets dug. And right in the middle of that clearing was a pool. It wasn't marked on my topo map. No stream fed into it, no outlet, just a wide still mirror of black water. Not a ripple, not a breeze, just flat as glass and wrong as hell. He squatted down by the edge, touched it with my fingers, and it was warm, not lukewarm, but warm like blood. The mud along the shore was thick and dark, slick like oil, and scattered all along the edge. Half-sunken muck were bones. At first I thought they were from deer, maybe a coyote, but some of them they looked too clean, too smooth, to Shapiti. Ain't no doctor, but I know a damn finger bone when I see Oni. And then the smell hit me, not rotting, not like death, but something old, something deep like a cave that's never been open, like earth that don't want sunlight, like drowning. He backed up real slow, but then I heard it, not a splash, not a branch breaking, just breath, and real low, real deep, combing from across the water. He stared across that like still surface, and I saw something, not a shape, not quite, but a shimmer, a stretch of darkness that didn't match the rest of the woods. He ain't proud of it, but irony hauled back up the trail so fast I scraped my shin on a root and nearly rolled my ankle, but I didn't stop, not once, until I was back at the sickening. You'd think I'd have left, then hell, any sane person would have peeled out and never looked back. But the thing is, when I turned around, that sign was gone. It wasn't just broken, it wasn't rotten or hidden or knocked over. It was gone, like it had never been there, like I'd never come in at Allen. Behind me the trail stretched out longer than before, twisted different, thicker, with trees that weren't there just minutes ago. It felt like the forest had changed while I wasn't looking, or maybe I had the night. I slept in my truck, locked the doors, kept the dome light on, but I swear somewhere around 3 a.m. I heard my passenger door handle jiggle just once, like something wanted in but decided I wasn't ready yet. I didn't sleep a wink that night, not with my back pressed against the truck door, not with the keys clutched so tight in my fist. I left marks. I kept waiting for another jiggle, for a knock, for some hand that ain't mine to tap the glass, but the only sound I got was the whisper of wind through trees that didn't feel like trees anymore. Each sunrise I started the engine, and that gravel road, the one I came in on, the one with the drop on one side and the tight forest on the other. It wasn't there, no Moreno tire tracks, no loose gravel, just a wall of pine and cedars so thick I couldn't see daylight between the trunks, like the trailhead had swallowed itself, like I was never meant to leave. Once I stepped in, he walked a full mile up and down the dirt loop, checked every turn, pushed through every false path, but no matter how far I went, I kept combing back to that rotted trail sign, the one that wasn't there the night before, now sitting clean in the ground like it never moved. An inch Deadwater Ridge trailhead, Bitterroot Mountains, Montana, USA. This time right underneath that a new line was burned into the wood. That car burned still black at the edges, like it had been done in the middle of the night. No exits past the waterline. I stood there staring, breathing real shallow, my skin cold in the morning light, because I realized then, whatever the hell that pool was, it was in charge now. Not me, not maps, not roads. He sat back in the truck, tried to get a signal, nothing, just searching like the satellites forgot this place even existed, like they were scared to look. I drank the last of my water, ate the last half of a granola bar that tasted like dust, and told myself I'd go back to the clearing one more time, see if I missed something. When I got there, the pool was bigger, I swear to you. It had grown maybe a dozen feet wider, reached farther into the trees, and that surface still flat, still black, still warm and wrong. But now there were things floating, and not branches, not leaves he saw. A shoe, half a belt, what looked like an old park ranger's hat, and something pale just beneath the water moving. Slow like a jellyfish made of bone. I knelt by the shore, not because I wanted to, because I had to, because the place pulls at you, pulls at your breath, pulls at your memory, pulls like a tide. You can't see, and then the water spoke, not with words, but with feeling. It poured something into my mind, images, places, faces I didn't know. We saw a group of hikers for a VIM, in bright rain jackets, laughing, snapping pictures, stepping into the woods just like I did. And then I saw them days later, faces, pale eyes, wide hands reaching toward the sky, like they were drowning, and eerie saw the pool taking them, swallowing them, not their bodies, but their minds, their memories, like it was eating. Oh, they were bit by bit, and just like that the vision snapped off. I stumbled back, heart pounding, ears ringing, and when I looked up the trees it moved. Again, trail I came in on now, bent to the left, not the right. The sun was sitting wrong in the sky, too low for the time, and the shadows of the trees were pointing at me, not from May ran, didn't care. Just ran in the forest, played its games, pots, looped back, rocks turned up where there weren't any before. At one point, found my own boot tracks combing from the wrong direction. Be late afternoon. I stumbled back into the clearing again. No matter where I went, it always brought me back, but this time someone else was there. She was standing by the edge of the pool, wearing a long raincoat, dripping wet even though the sky was dry, her hair hanging flat, and so covering her face. They called out, "Ma'am, you all right?" She didn't move, just stood there like she was listening to something way down below, like the water was whispering just for her. Then she turned, and that face, God, it was wrong, not rotted, monstrous, just blank, like her features were smudged, like her skin had forgotten how to hold a shapping. She pointed right at me, didn't say a word, just raised that pale finger and pointed behind me. The water moved, it wasn't a ripple, wasn't a wave. The whole damn surface shifted like it was breathing. I felt it looking at me like the pool itself had eyes beneath the dark, and I knew then, you can't leave Deadwater Ridge once it knows your name, not unless you give it something in return, something deep, something important to turn to. Run, but the woman was gone, just steam rising off the ground where she stood, and I swear, as I backed into the trees, the pool smiled, not a grin, not teeth, just a feeling like it was waiting, and it knew I'd be back. The next morning didn't feel like morning. There was no sun, just this thick pale light that made everything look like it was covered in wax. The trees weren't green anymore. They were gray, like something drained him dry in the night. In the pool, it was bigger again. It had crept farther into the woods, eaten up ground like rot. There were pieces of the trailhead floating in it now. The old signpost, a backpack I knew for sure hadn't been mine, a rusted axe and something that looked a hell of a lot like a jawbone. I don't know what made me walk toward it, I don't. But every step felt like it wasn't mine, like the trail had reached inside my boots and started walking me like a puppet. He stepped through thick grass that hissed like snakes ducked under branches that felt like ribs, and when I reached the bank, I swear the water leaned toward me. Sound came out, not a splash, not a ripple, but a breath like the pool exhaled right in my face, and then it showed me things againingly. This time it was me. I saw it me now, me at 7, sitting on a tire swing, laughing with my brother, the one that drowned it. Showed me him slipping under the lake back home, showed me my mama screaming. From the shore showed me how I never jumped in after him, even though I coulda, even though I shouldered on. Then it cut to black, and in that black, I heard him calling my name, calling like he was still down there trapped waiting. Pool was digging, not through my mind, through my soul. Dropped to my knees, hands in the dirt, nails breaking on stone, screaming. But the sound just fell into the water and vanished. The pool don't echo, it swallows. I stumbled back, gasping, heart pounding so hard I thought it had burst, and that's when I saw it, footprints, not mine, smaller, lighter, like a kid's, that led away from the pool into the forest stand. I knew they were as my brothers, or what was left of him. I followed without thinking. Branches cut my arms, rocks twisted under my feet, but I didn't care. I had to know they led me to a place I swear wasn't there. Befaria clearing with no trees, just wet stone. Right in the center, adorning a cabin, not a shack, just a door standing by itself, soaked in moss and dripping with black water. It had no handle, no hinges, just carvings, old one symbols that felt like they were watching me. Reached out, and the second I touched it, the forest went silent. It's silent, then the door opened on its own. Behind it, nothing but water, endless water stretching into dark, and in that water I saw him, me brother, still 7, still wearing that same soaked red shirt, floating there with his eyes open wide, mouth moving like he was speaking. But no sound came out. He stepped forward just on foot, and the water rose to meet me, rushed up my legs like hands grabbing at me. I heard a voice, not as not meant to give me something, or stayed. Door slammed shut behind me. I was waist deep now, chest deep. He had nothing left but the key in my pocket, the one I never used, the one to the storage unit I kept sealed for years, the one filled with my old life, my regrets, my chamois. Threw it into the water. The pool shivered, twitched, and spit me back out like I'd burned. Edie woke up by my truck, dry, alone, sun shining like normal. The forest looked fine, like nothing had ever happened. Trail sign clean, no extra lines, just the name Deadwater Ridge Trailhead. He drove out without looking back. No trouble this time, no closed paths, no twisted roads, but I knew that Bull took something, even if it let me go. Ever since, I ain't felt right. Food tastes wrong, my dreams are wet, and sometimes I wake up to find lake water in my boots. Last week a ranger called me, said someone found a red shirt caught on a tree branch way up in the bitter roots, exact match to the one brother wore. And just last night I found a key on my porch, wood rusted, but the number to my old unit etched clean into the side. I ain't going back, I want, because if I do, I know the door'll be waiting open wide, and this time the